Good afternoon. Let me just make sure that I am indeed live here. Looks like we are live. So good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're watching from. My name is Carol Buckalew. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the US. I have a fun card for you today. This is called a double-decker pop-out fun fold card. That's a mouthful. I was inspired to create this card. I was watching some YouTube videos, and Sue Camfield shared this card on one of her videos, as well as Julie Maxon, the main stamper. So a thank you and a nod to both of those ladies for demonstrating how to create this card. Hello, Mary. Yeah, it's a cool card. So this is a double-decker pop-out card. And my inspiration was Sue Camfield and Julie Maxon, the main stamper. So it's called a pop-out, a double-decker pop-out. We kind of have two layers going on here. If I hold it up, you can see that. And so when you open it up, the inside panel pops out. And if I hold the card here on the side, and it's kind of, I've got a shadow going on there. Sorry, maybe if I hold it up. No, sorry. Okay, there you can see it. That pop-out mechanism is on the inside there. Hello, Faith. Thanks so much for joining. So I'm going to share with you how to create this card. And let me just pop my sample up over here, and we can get started. The products that I used is the Perennial Lavender Suite Collection, which is just absolutely beautiful. If you've not looked at it, the paper, the stamp sets, and there's actually more than one stamp set in the suite. But the Painted Lavender stamp set and dies, I've got the dies on the inside here, inside my stamp case. But just some really beautiful things to create beautiful cards. And then I use the Perennial Postage stamp set for my sentiments. There's a lot of really great sentiments in this stamp set. Sorry, I'm off camera. Looks like my camera is a little zoomed in. So if you can't see, give me a shout out and let me know. And then I also use the Basics 3D embossing folders. And these folders you'll find as an online exclusive in the online store. And then, of course, the beautiful, Perennial Lavender 12x12 Designer Series paper. And you can see I've already cut into quite a bit of my paper here already. But just so pretty. So this card is for the Happy Inkin' Thursday blog hop, which is tomorrow. And we have a color challenge. And so this particular suite met that color challenge. And so that's why I used it. All of the measurements, hey Karen, thanks for joining. All of the measurements will be on my blog tomorrow. So you don't need to worry about any of that. Let me just think here how I want to tackle this. Okay, let's put the panels aside for now. So like I mentioned, all of the dimensions will be on my blog tomorrow, so you don't really need to worry about writing anything down. But this is a standard card base. This is 8.5 by 5.5, and it is scored at 2 1/8, and then again at 4 1/4. And so we're going to fold this just like a regular card, and I'm going to grab my bone folder and give a good burnish there. And so that 4 1/4 fold is a mountain fold. You can see, right? Mountain. And then this 2 1/8, and I am just second guessing myself here because this looks like it's too big. It is. This is cut incorrectly. This was scored at 2 1/4, not 2 1/8. Bear with me. I'm going to grab another piece of cardstock. I hate when that happens. So let me grab my Berry Burst here. See if this piece is long enough. It is. grab my paper trimmer. So I didn't double check that. I double checked everything else I cut, but not that. So let me see here, 8.5 by 5.5, which is a standard A2 size card base. I know, right, Karen? The fun of being live. You make a boo-boo, everybody gets to see it. But that's okay. It's easy enough to fix. So I want to score this at 4.25. And I'll get my cutting blade out of the way and use my scoring blade. And then I'm going to score at 2 1/8. So hopefully I've got that right this time around. 2 1/8. I looked at it and I'm like, something doesn't look right. And sure enough, it was not. 4.25, 2 1/8. Okay, I think we're good now. Let's try this again. You thought starting over was a normal part of the process. Yeah, now look, I did it again. Oh my goodness. Carol. It's going to be one of those days, I can tell. Let's try this one more time. That piece of cardstock that I grabbed was not a half sheet of cardstock, and obviously that confuses me. So let's try this one more time. I know this one will be right. I know it will be, right? All right. Now I got a lot of Berry Burst cardstock cut. That's all right. We'll use it up. Okay. All right, Carol. 4.25, and we're going to score it. And then 2 1/8. Oh, that is too funny. Huh. It happens. So yes, Faith, I totally agree. Starting over seems to be a normal part of the process. Oh, Karen, you know what? It's we wouldn't be human if we didn't make mistakes, right? But the thing is, like, I always check my cutting dimensions before I go live. I didn't check the card base. Hey, Rosie, no problem. Glad you could join. Okay, so the 4.25 is a mountain fold. And then this 2 1/8 is, please tell me I didn't do it again. Okay, good. The 2 1/8 is a valley fold. So I'm going to fold that back. And, okay, I think we're good now. I think we're good. You're going to be singing that song for the rest of the day? I'm not sure what song. I missed that. Sorry, I missed it in the comments, whatever song we're talking about. All right, so here is our card base. This slender 2 1/8 wide section is the front of the card. And I have gone ahead and pre-cut my panels of Designer Series paper. And again, this is the Perennial Lavender 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. And I want to just share something with you. So when you're designing or creating cards, you know, you will cut Designer Series paper and you're like, oh, that looks really good, you know, and you go ahead and proceed and you glue it up onto your card. Well, this is my finished card. And so when I made this card, I had a different piece of the Designer Series paper in here. And while the paper is all beautiful, I didn't like it on the card. I didn't like it at all. I mean, it just wasn't doing it for me. And so what I did, right, before I put my inside panel in and the pop-out mechanism, what I did was I cut a second piece of Designer Series paper that I like better, and I actually glued it over the first piece that was in the card, on the card base. And so if you've ever had this happen and you want to completely start over with a new card base and new paper, you don't always need to do that. You do want to fit and make sure that you've cut it the same size, right? Because sometimes we don't always cut precisely exactly the same 2 times. But it exactly covered the panel I had in here previously. Did I waste a panel of Designer Series paper? Yes, I did. but I didn't waste all my cardstock or my other 2 panels. So just an FYI, you know, if that ever happens to you and you're just not really liking the results, then, you know, feel free to do that. Sometimes we got to cheat a little bit. All right, I am going to use some liquid glue here to put my panels on the inside of the card. And it's important to note that before you do the pop-out mechanism on this card or, you know, anything else, it's important to get your designer panels, paper panels inside the card before you proceed on to the next step. And I do mention that in my tutorial, but you'll mess yourself up if you try to put that mechanism in before you put your designer series paper panels in. And then I'm just going to adhere this large piece on the inside of the card. And I'm just looking for an equal reveal all around the sides here. And we'll get that stuck down good. And then these 2 slender panels, this is actually designer series paper. It may look like it's just shaded spruce, but it is the designer paper. And I have used the crosshatch Basics 3D embossing folder to already emboss these panels. These are going to go here. So let's get these inside the card. And then we'll work on that pop-out mechanism. And it took me a hot second to figure that mechanism out, but it actually is very easy. And with the help of Sue Canfield and Julie's videos, it was extra easy to follow. Just got a little extra glue there. And when I'm gluing this panel in, I'm looking to just line up the tops of these panels, just for consistency's sake. Please give me a shout out if I am off camera at all, because, I don't know, I must have bumped my stand. And it seems like it's a little more zoomed in than it normally is. All right. And let's get this panel inside. And I need to just scooch it down a little bit if it will. Wow, it really grabbed. All right, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. All right. So this is our pop-out panel. And you may, yes, okay. You can see the score lines on there, I think. So this measures 3 inches by 2 1/4 inches. It is scored at 3/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches, and 2 1/4 inches. Hey, Amy, thanks so much for joining. So what I'm going to do is let me cap my glue up. That's what I'm going to do first. All right. So what you want to do with this pop-out mechanism at the center score line, the 1 1/2 inch, I'm going to go ahead and just fold that in half, and I'm going to give this a really good hard burnish with my bone folder. All right. So I'm going to open it up, right? And I've got like a little mountain fold. These are all mountain folds. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to fold the remaining 2 scores to the center and give that a good burnish. And I'm going to fold this one in. But I want to tell you, and this may be, let me hold this up. So what needs to happen, we're folding these 2 little side flaps in to the center score line. And you want a bit of a gap between these 2 folded in sides. So you want a bit of a gap in the center there so that the mechanism will work properly. And I'm just, if you need to kind of manhandle that cardstock a little bit to make that happen, that's perfectly okay. You're not going to see it. And I can see that mine is, I'm just going to score that with my thumbnail. That was easier for me to do. And let me just fix this one because it looks like it's not. You can see I'm manhandling this pretty good. but I just want to make sure that it's straight. Okay, that's better. All right. So then it forms, right, a little box here of sorts. So with this facing up, and I've got my flaps, my side flaps facing up, right? I am going to fold these in. Now, I am going to use liquid glue. If you're more comfortable using tear and tape, right? You can use tear and tape, and you would apply the tear and tape at the folded edge of these outside sections. But because this panel is embossed, once this is set in place, you're going to need to slip your bone folder inside as best you can, or something small enough to slip inside to really press that tear and tape down so that it gets adhered really well to the embossed panel. That's why I'm using glue. I didn't do that, and I should have. And it actually was pulling up a little bit. But if you take, the extra second to just make sure that tear and tape is making good contact with your mechanism, you should be fine. And it's just because the panel is embossed. So it just wasn't making good enough contact for me. But I'm comfortable using liquid glue. Do I get it on my fingers? Yes, I do sometimes. So these are the flaps meeting at the center. I'm going to carefully flip this over, and hopefully you can see this. So I've got my center 1.5 inch score line right here. I am going to line up that score line with the 4 1/4 score line on the inside of my card base. And I'm going to center this from top to bottom as best as I can. And fingers crossed. So I'm just lining up that score line on the pop-out mechanism with the score line on the inside of my card base. And then I'm going to give that a good press down. And if you need to wiggle it, that's what I like about glue. If you need to wiggle it just a bit to make sure that it's lining up, do that now. And I'm just going to give that a heartbeat to really adhere good, because this pop-out mechanism takes quite a bit of a beating if you're opening and closing the card. So you want to make sure that you do give, if you're using glue, to give it some time to set up. If you are not using glue, you want to, so if you open your card, you are able to slip your bone folder in there if you're using tear and tape or even seal, right? You are able to get your bone folder inside there and make sure that you're getting some good adhesion to the embossed panel. All right, that is our card base. I'm going to set this aside for now. We're going to do a little bit of stamping. And so inside panel and outside panel, I have one of the lavender images from, like I can't remember, from 2 seconds ago, from the Painted Lavender stamp set. And I am going to grab some, actually before, well, you know what? Yeah, we can stamp this first. I'm going to stamp this lavender image, and I'm going to second generation stamp it onto my inside panel, which is the larger panel. And this is Fresh Brise ink, which I just stuck my fingers in. Got 3 fingers in the ink. Not my day, is it? All right. So we got our lavender image. I'm going to ink that up good. And I'm going to stamp it off on my scrap paper. And then I'm just going to stamp it right about there. Second generation stamping. Okay. And I love the soft look of that. It is so pretty. And we are done with this ink. And then I am going to grab my inside sentiment and some shaded spruce ink. And our inside sentiment says Big Hugs. And we're going to ink that up in shaded spruce. And these are red rubber stamps, so they stamp beautifully. And let me see here. And I want to make sure that I'm stamping this far enough down so that we're not seeing the inside sentiment when the card is closed. So probably about 1/3 of the way down. And hopefully I get this stamp straight. Okay, that looks good. We're going to set that aside to dry, and then we're going to stamp our outside sentiment on our outside panel, sending love and best wishes. And this I want to also ink up in Shaded Spruce. I'm just going to pull that panel a little bit towards me. And I want this one stamped more towards the top. And let's try that and see how that goes. Okay, that looks good to me. We are good. And that, let me think here. That is our outside sentiment. Let me grab the envelope. Get our fresh freesia ink back out, because I forgot to stamp the front of my envelope when I had it out. And again, I'm going to use that pretty lavender image. And I just used this image by itself. This is a 2-step stamp set. But I just liked it by itself. And I'm going to partially stamp this full strength one time. I'm going to pick it up, and then I'm going to come back and stamp it again, second generation. And that stamped horribly. So let me grab another envelope. You know, just one of those days. Sorry, I just bumped the camera. Just one of those days. All right, let's try this again. I think because I had my DSP sitting inside that envelope, it just did not, and it's hard to see, this fresh freesia ink, it's hard to see when that stamp is fully inked up because it's so light. Let's try, I'll give it a better press here. Yeah, why not is right, Mary. Okay, second generation stamp. Ugh, give it a good press. Okay, better. That may be difficult for you to see, but it's there. All right. Close my ink up here so I don't stick my fingers in it again. Let's go ahead and get our inside panel adhered to the inside of the card first, and I'll show you how it gets attached to that pop-out mechanism. And I am matting this inside panel to a piece of Shaded Spruce. These colors are just so gorgeous together. Hopefully I cut these panels to the correct size. Keep your fingers crossed, guys. I think I did. I think we're good. We've been enjoying some really nice sunny weather for a change. It's 46 degrees outside. Feels almost balmy after the cold temperatures that we had. All right, I'm going to bring my card base back in here. And with your card base open, you're going to attach your inside panel. And we still have our center score line there on the pop-out mechanism. We are adhering to the left portion of this pop-out mechanism. And when we're adhering it, we want it centered from top to bottom. So I want to make sure that I get about the same amount of space, top to bottom. And I know this is going to be hard to see, but when you adhere this to the pop-out mechanism, you want to scooch it right, just maybe 1/16 of an inch or less. You want to be able to see that folded edge of the pop-out mechanism. If you adhere it so that you're not seeing the mechanism at all, like right now, then it's going to interfere with the card opening and closing. So we want just a hair of that mechanism to be showing, and then we want an equal distance top and bottom as best as possible. So what I'm going to do, and again, if you're using tear and tape, you could use 2 strips of tear and tape. But again, you're going to need to apply some nice, good hard pressure to make sure that you're getting good adhesion. But I'm going to use liquid glue, And I'm just going to go ahead and put some glue there, make sure my panel is right side up, and I'm making sure that I can see that folded edge. And let me scooch that up just a bit. All right, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to give that some, hey Sharon, thanks so much for joining. Give that a minute to really adhere. All right, I'm not done with my glue yet. Let me get my outside panel matted up and we will get this panel decorated. I'm going to be running over just a few minutes today, but I think it's worth it. This is a pretty card. So I'm matting the outside panel onto a piece of shaded spruce. Okay. And then let me move my Inky stamps out of the way and grab, these are my pre-cut pieces. And these were cut from the painted lavender dies. And I have two leaf sprigs in the Lost Lagoon cardstock. And then I've got a couple of lavender sprigs, one in Highland Heather and one in Gorgeous Grape. And then I've got a couple of teeny tiny little butterflies in Gorgeous Grape. I pre-stamped those and pre-cut them. So I'm going to try, I have a brand new bottle of glue, and I am going to try to just apply only a small amount. All right. And I want to angle these leaf sprigs on either side of my sentiment. I'm kind of shooting for the center bottom of the panel here. And it is okay if they slightly hang over the edge of your panel. That works out just fine. We've got plenty of room on the card front. You just wouldn't want to get carried away and, you know, angle them too far out. Get a little liquid glue here on this sprig, and we're going to angle this one the opposite direction. Again, I'm making sure that I'm not covering up my sentiment, just like that. And then these are, it's kind of like a little lavender bouquet, if you will, on our card front. Get a little bit of liquid glue here on our lavender sprigs. And this is the Highland Heather, which is just a gorgeous color. All right, and then the Gorgeous Grape is like my favorite purple. I love this color. Come on, glue. All right, get this one on. And I'm kind of angling these little lavender sprigs up slightly so that we're not hiding our leaves there. All right, so these little butterflies, it's a stamp. I stamped this on white cardstock in Gorgeous Grape ink. They're the tiniest little things. And I'm going to adhere these to my card front. And this larger butterfly, not that he's large, but I'm going to bend him right up the center there to give him a little dimension, and apply just a drop or two of glue here on just one side of that butterfly. And I'm going to pop him right there in the center of our front panel. And then let me grab my tweezers, because that would be so much easier. Put a little drop of glue, and he's going on this front panel as well. And I think I'm going to just put him up there. There we go. And I got carried away with the glue. New bottles of glue are notorious for squishing out when you don't want them to. All right. So that is our front panel. Isn't that pretty? All right. So with your card front closed, what we're going to do is apply adhesive only down the left side of this panel. We are going to glue it to this top panel on the front of the card. And when we're doing that, we are going to look for an equal reveal between the outside panel and our inside panel. It makes a really pretty frame on the top right and bottom edges there. So let me go ahead and, so on this side of our panel, and again, you can use tear and tape for this, but I would just, recommend that you really give it some good pressure to make sure that that it adheres well on that embossed panel. And I'm going to go ahead, and that looks even to me, or at least as even as my eyeballs can see. And I'm going to go ahead and give that a good push down. A little liquid glue trying to squeak out there. And I'm going to hold it for just a heartbeat, just to make sure that, yeah, aren't those little butterflies precious? I did not use any gems on this card. I just didn't feel like it needed it, but you certainly are welcome to do that. Let me cap my glue because it is starting to dry out just a little bit. I pre-made my bow as well, and I'm going to use some mini glue dots. I'm going to use 3 mini glue dots. I only usually use 1, but this is the silver and white sheer ribbon, and so it's actually really hard for you to probably see. It's beautiful ribbon, but it's rather porous, and so it needs a little extra to help it grip to the card. So I'm going to put a mini glue dot right in the center there of my bouquet. And then I'm going to put one on either side of that, just to kind of help that bow hold in place so it's not falling off when I send the card. And let me see here, which side? I think maybe that is our prettier side, and go ahead and get that. There we go. So that is the finished card. We've got our pop-out mechanism that pops up that center panel, and this is how it would look, profile. And the last thing we need to do here is add some, oh, thank you, Rosie, appreciate it, my pleasure, is to add some coordinating DSP. So I think this was the DSP that I had the first time inside the card, and the print was just a little bit too large for me, and you couldn't really appreciate the paper. Thank you, Karen, appreciate it. Thank you, Faith. That's why I went with the smaller floral print on the inside of that card, and it just made all the difference in the world. Let me get the goopies here off my glue. And now I've got the goopies on my fingers. And we'll go ahead and get this on our... So Celebration is more than half over. We have a joining promotion, really good deal right now. You can catch all of the details on my blog. Celebration will end on February 29th. There are also 2 new kits in the kits collection. You'll find those in the online store under the online exclusive section of the website. So be sure to check those out. But yeah, celebration. Be sure that you're getting your orders in before February 29th to earn free products from the celebration brochure. There's also some additional celebration items that you can get for free with a qualifying purchase. And that information is also on my website at inkybstampers.com. So be sure to check that out. And yeah. So this was the double-decker pop-out card. This was a fun card to make. Despite my little challenges getting started here today, I didn't double-check my card base and messed it up twice, but that's okay. That cardstock will go to good use for another project. And that is it. That is our double-decker pop-out card for today. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.